Setting up a spreadsheet in Excel is straightforward. When you first start Excel, you will be presented with a workbook with one tab at the bottom. You can add tabs, and that's another sheet added to the workbook. And each sheet can contain different information that's related. So I'm going to use the first tab for what's quite common, and it's to create a table, a register of some sort. You can move around the spreadsheet by clicking into cells, and it's really important to understand that everything is going to have to fit into one of those cells. The spreadsheet itself is organized in columns with the letters A, B, C, D, and broken into rows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the left-hand side. So because my current selection, which is known as the active cell, is B3, you can see the reference here, B3. So it's always the column reference followed by the number. And I'm going to start my table here. So I'm going to create an attendance list of students, a register. I want their ID. I want their name. If I want to break that down into first name, full name, for sorting, for instance, I will have to review my entry. You can go back to a cell, you can click back and type over it. You can also go into the formula bar at the top of the screen, and you can make your correction here. So I want my last name to go here. Maybe, but if you notice that you're making a mistake, instead of continuing, you can press escape on the keyboard, or you can press cancel here on the screen, on the formula bar, that X. So that's cancel, and it brings you back to what you were doing. I'm going to change that to last name, and then first name. Now you notice that the columns have a specific size. They're all of the same size. So sometimes your content might be a little bit too big for a cell, but keep going. Don't skip cells. For F3, after the attendance, I might want to record assignment results. So again, you can see that attendance is not displayed fully, and so none of these really. So at this point, you have different options to resize the column. The first one is simply to find a border between C and D, and click the mouse on that border and drag. And when you click and drag, you resize the column. So I'm going to repeat the process here for the other columns. So don't skip columns, just make sure that you fit the cell size to the content. I'm going to go back here and undo my changes. There are other ways you can resize the columns. The manual way would be to select your column or the cell, and on the Home tab, there's a section here, Cells Format, and you can change the column width. The unit here is 8.09. It's not a unit that's easy to understand, so you're going to have to try here different sizes until you find the right one for your cell. So you can use that. You can also use what's called AutoFit, and that's where you get Excel to resize the cell automatically for you. If you have multiple cells that you want to resize, you can also make multiple selections. Select all the cells here and click and drag the border for all of them at once. So it's either one cell at a time, or you can click and drag and resize multiple columns, multiple cells. If you do it this way, You notice that the 3 columns that I selected will have exactly the same size. So that could be the advantage of using that particular technique. Let me finish this up by adding some information into my tables. So student 102. And then yes. And continue entering your data. Press enter each time you make an entry. Or cancel if you don't want to keep that entry. Need to format the spreadsheet to make it look nicer. Very similar to other formatting that you would have used in Word or email. You can change the font color here. You can change the fill color. So it's the background of the cell. You can also change borders. You can apply borders. Each cell has 4 sides, or a group of cells has 4 sides on the outside. It also has horizontal lines and vertical lines between each cell. So the formatting of the borders can be achieved through this dialog. Choose thick outside borders, and you get thick outside borders in your selection. And if you choose inside borders, you can see the grid is displayed in solid lines. So in my table, I want the headings to have thick black borders, like so. And in my table, what I might want is just a line across, not on the sides, not on the outside, just across. So I can choose that dialog again, go into more borders, and I can choose here in the tab called borders. So I'm going to choose to format my borders here in this drop down. Towards the end, there is a draw border button, and that turns the mouse into a pen. In that drop down, a little bit off screen possibly, I can choose my line color. I'm going to pick orange, and now my pen turns into a border tool. So it's just a matter of applying the line where I want it. And if it goes wrong, if it's applying the line to the wrong place, just undo. Okay, last thing I might want to do is I'm going to cancel the pen by clicking that off again. I'm going to remove formatting from cells that I've already formatted here by going into editing, clear, and clear formats. Before I share this workbook, I probably want to hide the grid lines. Might want to make it look a bit more presentable. So the first thing I would do is go into View and remove grid lines. I'm going to add a title, and I want it to span the table. Just type again in cell B1, but to get that text across the 4 cells that span the table, I'm going to use my formatting tricks here and use the button called Merge and Center. It's going to take all 4 cells and merge them into one, and at the same time center the text. There's a drop down beside that Merge and Center button, so you do have other ways of merging or unmerging. Great, let's make this title a little bit bigger. And that's a simple table setup and ready to be completed. Notice how the formatting extends automatically. Excel is going to make some assumption about your formatting. To finish it off, I'm going to make sure to rename the sheet. So at the bottom, you can see sheet 1. If you right click, you'll have an option to rename. And I could continue and do the same thing for week 2 and have the same table. Just to save myself a bit of effort, I'm just going to copy and paste into the same place. So B1 is where I started. Paste it here. I'm going to hide the grid lines in the second sheet, and I have my table there. Let's add a little more information to the table. So for instance, if I wanted to have a column with the fee paid, okay, I'm going to put some random numbers here. In addition to the color formatting, which I can copy from the previous cells, I can apply some number formats. So first of all, I'm going to copy the formatting from these cells by selecting the cells, and I choose Format Painter. Format Painter exists in all applications, so anytime you want to copy formatting, think of using it. Once I selected the formatting, my mouse has changed into a paintbrush icon here, and I can release the formatting to that cell. So the same borders, the same colors, and the same alignment will apply. Notice numbers are always right aligned and text is always left aligned. Because this is money, what I can choose what to do in Excel is to apply a number format. For money, from the drop down, I will see a currency style, an accounting style, dates, percentages. So I'm going to use currency style because that's my favorite. I'm going to add comments. Yeah, and you can see my comment is quite long, so it doesn't quite fit in that cell. So it might make sense to make the column wider. However, you may not want to make it much wider than this. So the alternative is to wrap the text inside of the cell so that when it reaches the end of the cell, the continuation would be on the second line. So I can do that by selecting the cell that I want to wrap. And here in the alignment group, press wrap text. And then the text will be over 2 lines. So I'm not quite sure I like this too much. I try to avoid being in that situation because the whole row now is bigger than the other rows, so it doesn't look so great. Also, you notice the text here is at the bottom of the cell, so I will need to realign it. Select all my cells, and then I can move them up here by choosing the alignment within the cell. Just to show you some more options, I can center text within a cell. I can left align it, right align it. So you'll have to decide which works for you. Now you know how to set up a spreadsheet in Excel. You know how to apply basic formatting like font color, fill color, and borders. And all of these are already familiar. You know how to change the alignment within the cells, apply merge for a title, apply wrap text for text that's too long, and you know how to copy formatting using the format painter, extend that formatting to a whole table. Let me do that again. Apply it here. Oh. We also looked at tabs, renaming the tabs, and adding new tabs. Tabs can also be colored, color-coded. Right-click, tab color, and apply a color. When that tab is not active, you'll see the color in full. So anything that's on the same topic could have the same tab color. Move the tabs around by dragging them, or right-click to delete, rename, or move them to another workbook.